Hi, it's Marcus Collins with the MA Properties Online team with your Q1 market update for Lexington. A little bit different this month. We're going to look at some different metrics to give you a sense of what the impact of the current crisis has been on the housing market and perhaps giving us a little bit more of an insight as to what might happen when we actually come out of this in the next 1 to 2 months' time. So first of all, let's look at the number of listings in the first 3 months of this year versus the first 3 months of last year. We had 94 this year and 106 last year, which is about a 10% reduction. But I feel we should have got a lot more listings this year, given how mild the winter was. Seems like a long time ago, but we were bringing homes on the market in late January and early February, which is 2 to 3 weeks earlier than we would ordinarily expect to do. So that net reduction in the number of listings very much impacted by what happened in March. So let's look at March. That's kind of the pivotal month, I think, to get a sense of what happened. The first 2 weeks of March were about the same as we saw in 2019. But then we saw a dramatic reduction, about a 40% reduction in the number of listings in the second 2 weeks of March. That's 23 this year versus 38 last year. So that's a big reduction, about a 40% reduction. Clearly, that's what was caused by the crisis finally hitting home. In terms of the usual metrics, I think these give us an insight as to what's going to happen when we come out of this. We had 47 homes sell in the first 3 months. Days on the market, a really high number of 94. Sales price to list price ratio, that key metric that we track, that was at 97%. That's a big reduction than we would ordinarily expect, even for Lexington. The reason for that is pretty clear. Much of the home sales that closed in that January, February, March actually went under agreement at the end of the year. So we always expect a much lower or much higher number of days on the market and a lower sale price to list price ratio because of that. Homes going under agreement in the weakest period in the heart of the winter, middle of the winter. But interesting to look at home sales in March versus this year versus March last year, this sale price to list price ratio. Last year, that number was running at about 102%. We always, for those homes that go under agreement in February, we always expect a much higher number. The earliest part of the spring market is a very buoyant time. We had one home that came on the market. We had 18 offers on it and it sold for 116% sale price to list price ratio coming on the market in that early February timeframe. So always a very buoyant time. This year though, on aggregate for Lexington in March, it was 100%. So that's 102 versus 100. So we're already beginning to see the impact of the perceived downturn in the housing market coming in with those February under agreements, March sales. So we're already getting an insight into what people's thinking was in terms of a somewhat softer housing market in Lexington in 2020 versus 2019. Then, of course, we had the coronavirus crisis, and let's kind of get a sense of how that's impacted us. Interesting to look at the stock market crash. That preceded the reduction in the number of listings by almost a month. So mid-February, we saw the stock market decline. And that impacted many buyers in those higher price points that were somewhat exposed to the stock market. So in February, we saw a number of buyers at the higher price point exiting because of the fears over the stock market crash and how long that would continue. As we then moved into March, and specifically late March, there was a transition, less worried, of course, about the stock market, much more worried about whether they were going to be laid off, whether they're going to be furloughed, what actually the impact of this crisis, this pandemic, was actually going to be. So it transitioned from stock market fears in the middle of February through to pandemic fears, if you will, in the second half of March. So that's kind of where our buyers are right now, very much worried about the stock market, but much more focused on, well, so when are we going to come out of this crisis, and what will that new picture, what will the economy look like when we actually come out of the crisis? So what can we expect? So clearly, much of the prediction here is based upon when we actually come out of this. It seems clear that's not going to be in April. It's possible it could be in May, but if we work on the scenario that April and May, we're going to see a dramatic reduction in the number of listings. It would not surprise me to see 60, maybe even 80% less listings in April and May than we would historically have seen. And when you think that in May, we should have seen well over 70 homes coming on the market, that number could be in the 20s, perhaps even lower. What that means is when we come out of this crisis, that there's going to be almost a mad scramble to get homes on the market and for buyers to buy those homes. So we see a number of sellers staying in the market. Some will clearly put it off to 2021, but those that have to sell, want to sell, those homes will now be coming on the market in that June, July timeframe. So more inventory coming on in that June, July, perhaps not as high as we would have seen last, had there not been for this crisis, but certainly a large number of homes coming on in that June, July timeframe. So on the one hand, lots of sellers. Now on the buyer side, on the demand side, if you like, that's where we're going to see still a very skittish buyer community. Some will see, yes, their jobs come back quite quickly, but looking at the projections that I can see, it isn't going to be a V-shaped recession. We're not going to be back out of this in the order of months. It looks like this downturn in the economy and therefore in the housing market, it's going to continue well into 2021. So going to see less buyers in the market, but much more or more sellers in the market. So that it's very much going to transition to a buyer's market as we see sellers who really do have to sell. So that's kind of where we see that. So how should you position yourself from a buyer, from a seller's perspective? From a seller's perspective, everything is online right now. We're not doing open houses. It's unclear when we'll be able to do that. We are seeing huge traffic to our single property websites. Whenever we bring a property on the market, we create a website. We're seeing huge demand of huge numbers in terms of looking at that website. My feeling is that buyers are doing everything online, and then if they like the home, then they're perhaps doing a private showing. So our 3D tour, we do those for all of our homes in Lexington, is getting huge numbers of showings. Say our website as well, videos as well. So they're looking at anything they can online before they venture out to do a private showing. So that's key for sellers. Marketing is king at this time. It always is, but even more so, and it's specifically around that digital marketing. Moving away from print, that's kind of gone by the by. Now everything is online. So if you're looking to sell your home in 2020, you have to have all of the digital channels covered. Video, high quality photographs, of course, 3D tour, all of that needs to be in place to really get buyers even to come into your home. That's the first thing around the sellers. In terms of the buyers, there may well be some opportunities out there. It's hard to know, but it looks like that there may well be some, perhaps not bargains, that may well not happen, but there could well be some price adjustment downwards and kind of a more balanced market, let's see. So I think for those buyers who do feel confident enough to come into the market, maybe now is not the right time. There just isn't that many homes on the market. But come that end of May, June, July timeframe, we're likely to see a lot more homes coming on the market. And that will be the right time to kind of get back into the market, depending on how confident that the buyers feel in terms of their job and the future. So that's about the best we can see in terms of the predictions for now. June, July, lots of sellers on the market, less buyers, but certainly some buyers, and so transitioning very much to a buyer's market. So that's where we are. We'll clearly keep a good close eye on the market as we move now through these pivotal month of April, and then see what happens in that mid-May, late May timeframe. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up. It's been a long video. Sorry about that. There's a lot to cover clearly with what's going on. So we'll be back in touch late April, early May, when we get a sense of what's happening in the market over the next pivotal 3 to 4 weeks. So with that, I'll say goodbye, stay safe, and we'll see you again in early May. Bye.